If you're a frequent PNW Haunts and Homicides listener, you probably already know we're Birdie ambassadors.
We wanted to take a quick moment to tell you a little bit more about this awesome product.
Birdie is the modern personal safety alarm made for women by women.
In a situation where you feel threatened or unsafe, you can simply activate Birdie's loud siren and flashing light to create a diversion.
Birdie is perfect to carry anytime because the device is lightweight and comes in a variety of colors.
So important. Use our ambassador link and coupon code PNW Haunts and Homicides to receive 10% off your purchase. Like our social media handles, the coupon code is all spelled out, no special characters.
You can find the link and promo code in our show notes or PNW Haunts and Homicides link tree.
Have a safe ass day! Hi, Cassie.
Hi, Caitlin.
Hi, creepy people.
Hello, creepy people.
Hello.
You're so cute.
Aw,
Look at you out there.
we love you.
I just want to pinch your cheeks.
Aw. I mean, with your consent, of course.
Yeah.
but,
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Your face cheeks, not your butt cheeks.
I mean, no, I'm kidding. Definitely face cheeks. This is PNW Haunts and Homicides, which, I mean, you click the link, you found us, so you probably already know that, right? I don't know.
Totally.
So as we record today, I just checked our download numbers and we noticed something pretty witchy.
Yes.
We have hit 33,011 downloads.
Woo!
Woo!
We love repeating numbers around here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because we've been talking about the synchronicity so much, and I don't know why, but I just was like, I need to see.
Yeah.
So
We had to look.
yeah. And spoiler, I think there's kind of some of that with our case today, too.
Ooh.
Some repeating numbers.
More?
Mhm.
You had that in the last one, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like it's kind of come up a little bit here and there, but the last one with Kirby and then now today with our not friend.
our unfriend.
Yeah. Unsubscribe. Oh, man. Do we have any orders of business?
Well, we have new merch, so if you haven't gotten merch yet, go buy merch because it's really cool.
No. I used my Tumblr last night.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love her.
How did it work?
It works fabulously. You could do everything shy of literally like turning it upside down.
Did you try that?
I haven't, no.
Do it with water and
I'm
not
afraid.
wine over the sink.
Well, there is a little breathing hole in the top of the tumbler lid. So I'm probably not going to do that. But I think the design is really pretty. And I think we've probably already said we're super, super happy and grateful for Nefarious Nightmare.
Yeah.
A Nefarious Nightmare. Courtney and Amanda, they're amazing. They helped us out with that tarot.
So sweet.
Yeah. So
Love that.
love it.
Also, I do love the wine tumblers because they're like adult sippy cups.
Mm-hmm.
And they keep the fruit flies out too, which is a huge problem in my house because I have a lot of plants. And so we do get a lot of fruit flies in the summer. And they just love my fucking wine.
Wow. I didn't even think about that for inside. I was thinking, going ahead into summer.
Yeah, outside too.
Yeah.
But
Oh, no.
yeah.
I think I've got it covered though now. So I've got all of the tumblers.
Yeah.
I've got like my big Yeti one, which I usually try to put water in that one. And then this one's a little smaller and it's fancy. So that'll be for wine.
Wine. Fancy wine.
Mm-hmm. All right. So this one, I'm just going to get right into it, I guess. I don't really have much of a lead in for this case.
You're just going to smack us in the face.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think my tone was very much down to business because I really looked at a lot of different source material. And I'll be honest, I kind of hate his face. So I feel like it may come through. I don't know. We'll see.
You think?
Probably.
I don't know.
I feel like it usually does. All right. In Galveston, Texas, on June 12th of 1939, a monster was born.
Oh, a monster.
Mm-hmm. His name was Bobby Jack Fowler. This was actually his given name, not Robert. He didn't just go by Bobby as a nickname.
Interesting.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of unusual.
I kind of like that, Bobby Jack.
I have no problem with particularly, but I will be mocking him mercilessly for because, well, he's a monster, as previously stated. So I feel like in all of these, I always look for kind of like the one little thing. And most of them, it's not such a little thing. And this feels pretty minute, but it's all I really have.
It's all I have.
It's all I have. So he was born in Taylor County, Texas, to Selva and Olma Lee Fowler. He was a middle child, born second between his brother and his sister. And there's not a ton out there about his childhood, but we do know that. He's a middle child.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's much about his background that would strike most people as remarkable, really in any way, until he reaches adulthood. And because we're talking about him on this show, it's not remarkable in that good way.
Mm.
He married Teresa Louise Patton in 1959, and they had 5 children. But as is often the case, that relationship did not last. In all too familiar a storyline, Bobby was both an alcoholic and a heavy meth user.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not a great combo, as it turns out.
I don't think meth added to anything makes a great combo.
Yeah, I feel like, you really went awry by adding that to the mix. But that was his jam.
Just don't do meth, guys.
Yeah, I feel like hard pass on that.
Yeah.
Eek. He traveled frequently, starting in the 1970s up through the 1990s. He lived and or worked all over the country during these decades, which is unfortunate.
Mm.
It's a long list of places, so I may have to pause for a breath. All right, I'm going to take a deep one before starting.
Okay.
Florida, because every crazy story has got to have a tie to it. Oregon, Washington, Iowa, Louisiana, Texas, South Carolina, Arizona, Tennessee, and even British Columbia.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think you should have listed the places he didn't live.
It might have been a shorter list. And it's all over the country too, Oregon and Washington and British Columbia, that's what we typically think of as the Pacific Northwest, but Iowa's kind of Midwest, and then in the South, Louisiana, Texas, South Carolina. He's all over the map.
Yeah.
He's wildin'.
Did he have like a traveling job, or did he just like to move from place to place?
I don't think that he had a really good reason for it necessarily, other than like, oh shit, I got to get out of this town.
Oh.
Yeah. Kind of one of those.
Mm.
Yeah. It's not like one of those cases where, oh, he was a traveling salesman, or like his line of work was he was a truck driver. No.
Mm. Okay.
This was strictly based on convenience, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, as you may have guessed, we won't be talking about Bobby because he had a famous travel blog with grammable pics.
He didn't have a travel blog?
No, he did not. And that definitely would have been a line of work where traveling would have made a little bit more sense. But no, not so much.
Get it together, Bobby Jack.
It's believed that he perpetrated heinous sexual crimes as well as murders in several of these areas: Tennessee, Texas, British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon. If you haven't heard of Bobby Jack Fowler before today, that's honestly not all that surprising, because as serial rapist killers go, he's something of an enigma, and not in a good way. He's suspected in as many as 16 to 20 murders. Accounts vary wildly, and very few of these crimes he's alleged to have perpetrated are confirmed, with the victims conclusively linked to Bobby.
Oh.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he remained largely undetected, in all honesty. That statement comes with a couple of major exceptions as the story develops. But notably, there is the crime perpetrated on 2 people in his home state of Texas. There's not much information available about large chunks of his time, which is at least part of why there's little to show an ironclad link between him and some of the potential victims. What we do know about him comes largely just from his criminal records. So
he had a record.
Yeah. So you're telling me this guy's a criminal, which is extensive. He has a criminal record basically everywhere he lived. Obviously, I didn't mention every single state that he lived in as being one of those where he commit a violent crime, but he did other things too. He had a lot of hobbies.
If that's what you want to call it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for him, they're hobbies. For the rest of us, relatively normal, creepy people. Yikes. So, I mean, from drugs, theft, rape, and then even attempted murder. Well, we'll get to that last one. It's actually a little bit crazier than it sounds, because attempted murder doesn't even sound that crazy.
Not here.
Yeah, no. But we're going to get right into his laundry list of crimes, confirmed and otherwise. Just start this one off at full speed.
Okay. I have a question.
Yeah.
Why did they call it a laundry list?
I have no idea. We're going to have to look that up. Okay, so let's see. When you took your laundry to a commercial laundry establishment, though you had to make a record of what you'd sent, this ensured both that you got back what you'd sent and that you paid for what you got washed. And that is where the laundry list comes from.
Okay.
That's a lot lamer than
Yeah.
But I mean, laundry, like, how could it have been cool?
Yeah, right?
All right, well.
But why do we use that so often?
I don't know.
It's so weird.
I don't know, because clearly I'm 80. I've never made a laundry list for this, and it's like one of the most common phrases that I use, probably.
Interesting. All right.
Well,
fun fact of the day.
Yeah. We're going to have to start looking into some of those like kind of common idioms.
Mm-hmm.
Just sprinkle them in, just a little bonus. In 1969, Bobby was 30 years old and still living in Texas. He also found himself charged with a double homicide. He had shot and killed a man and a woman, but ended up only being convicted of, deep breath here, discharging a weapon within city limits.
But he killed them?
Mm-hmm.
He murdered people?
Yeah.
And he only got charged with...
I'm not sure how that happens. Every source that I've looked at that talks about this in, relation to his case was sort of like, it's that shrugging emoji, like,
wow. Maybe they just couldn't prove that he shot them, but they knew his weapon went on. But there's bullet.
I'm not... It's a thinker.
Maybe he said he did it on accident.
That's the only thing I can think of. But I feel like here's the thing: you might get let off easy if it's like a single, person that's harmed. But once it's 2, and they both die, I don't know. Doesn't quite sit right.
That's very weird.
Yeah, I don't love it. So. Which leads me to kind of my next point. Texas, we know things have been, to put it mildly, a bit askew down there recently. But I guess apparently things have been a bit off course for a while now. As I wrote these notes, obviously I had no idea what was going to take place ahead of the holiday weekend this May. As I sat down to begin my editing process, I definitely had the deadly school shooting in Uvalde on my mind. And it feels so cliche, but I do just want to say that, our hearts obviously go out to these families. And while I think we've shared some of our thoughts on other developments occurring in Texas in, recent history, sadly, that is center stage in a lot of our minds right now. So we just wanted to kind of take a moment just to acknowledge the incredible loss and grief that I think is palpable for so many of us as we observe how that tragedy has begun to unfold. And boy, is it unfolding into a kind of, it's a horrifying story, but oftentimes because we're also busy and these stories happen in the blink of an eye, and we don't feel like we have the appropriate time and place to reflect. And we certainly don't want to harp on what is already making headlines and already so disheartening. But I don't know, I just kind of felt like for us, it's, we feel kind of compelled to acknowledge how heavily that weighs for us.
Yeah. Well, especially when we're talking about a crime in Texas that involved a gun,
Yeah, it just, I was just, as I sat down to edit again, my notes, it just felt like, no freaking way.
Yeah.
Just here's this totally senseless crime that's, occurring with a weapon in the state of Texas. And obviously they happen all over the country, but that just felt kind of eerie, and it's deeply disheartening. But
yeah.
So we're going to get back to Bobby, but it just kind of felt like something that needed to be said. So obviously, with an incredibly lame charge like this, considering 2 innocent people were harmed, the punishment amounted to a slap on the wrist. Bobby apparently thought he needed a change of scenery because around this time is when he moved on to BC. Poor British Columbia.
That's crazy to go from Texas to Canada.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know you would think that if you were going to try to leave the country or even just leave the state, wouldn't Mexico have been the more logical choice? Not that I wish that on Mexico, but
yeah, right.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Maybe you just relocate to jail.
Right. Yeah.
That would be ideal. Around this time is when the disappearances and murders along a major highway known as the Highway of Tears began.
That sounds sad.
It's not happy, and it is also very sad. To put this in perspective, there are something like 40 to 50 murders that took place largely in the 1970s to the early 2000s that are known as the Highway of Tears murders.
Jesus.
Yeah. For years, there were members of the public, journalists familiar with the case, and even law enforcement that believed Bobby Jack Fowler was likely responsible for some of them. They don't believe he perpetrated all of the crimes, so it's highly likely that there could even be a couple of additional serial killers that contributed to the overwhelming number of disappearances and murders.
Were they all just converging on this highway to kill people?
Yeah, it's you'd be hard pressed to find any law enforcement or official agency that would report this or state it as if it were fact, but I think it's widely accepted that yes, there are probably multiple serial killers that were and potentially are still active as a part of the highway murders.
Wow.
And it's a huge stretch of highway. It's about, I think, 700 or 800 kilometers where the vast majority took place. But this highway literally stretches well over 2,000, all the way across Canada.
Is it just like really vulnerable? Like there's no
Yeah.
like there's
It's a
just
very
no one
rural
around?
area.
Ugh.
Most of the largest stretches of the highway are in really rural areas, and there's not a lot of law enforcement out that way. And it's just, the lack of resources. And the other thing that really contributes to this is how prevalent hitchhiking was. And because there's not, public transportation resources in a lot of these areas, that's why we kind of see such a spike. And that's not to blame the victims at all.
Yeah.
You should be able to wear what you want and walk down any dark alley and be safe. And unfortunately, that's just, not the reality. But yeah, so just, probably a couple, maybe a few different serial killers hanging out up and along that highway, which is disturbing.
That is terrifying. It's like they have like a serial killer, like what are those things? Like a newsletter. Like,
Oh,
hey, this is
God.
a good spot.
It's kind of a playground for them.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
So any of the crimes that occurred after 1995, we know he couldn't be responsible for. More on that here in a bit.
Okay, I was going to ask.
Yeah. Let's just say we eventually figured out a way to keep tabs on this duplicitous dude. While living in the area, Bobby worked for Happy's Roofing Company.
Oh.
Yeah, adorable. And though this is one of the few places he lived where he has no arrest record, no one's laboring under the delusion that it's because he was on his best behavior or anything.
Of course not.
No. Happy's Roofing Company worked up and down Highway 16, also known as the Highway of Tears. This is from 1969 to roughly 1975 for reference. And we'll come back to this to explain at least one of the things that he was getting up to during this time.
Okay. I'm so excited.
It's not hard to see why Bobby might have flown under the radar for so long. The communication between various jurisdictions was a bit dicey, as we well know, in the decades that Bobby perpetrated most of the crimes that he's linked to. Part of that is certainly attributed to a lack of technology, while it's debated whether, maybe hubris was also a contributing factor in some of these cases. Whether he's connected circumstantially or in a way that's more concrete, based on one piece of evidence or another, the larger picture and various connections between many similar disappearances and murders was lost on law enforcement until many years later, unfortunately. We've got a lot of different locations, dates, vague descriptions, rumors, and quite a few names, but it's all going to get tied together as much as possible because, that's the benefit of hindsight, right?
Yeah.
So we're just going to get right to it and talk about some of his crimes and, I'll kind of let you know which ones we sort of just have an indication. Maybe he's possibly linked, which ones, are officially on record that, he's responsible for them on some level. But because I think there's always the chance that even years later, a piece of the puzzle could be worked out from even a seemingly insignificant detail or clue. So some of these, it's like, we've got a pretty good idea, but I don't think that we've officially closed that chapter.
Yeah.
And I think that some of them are still, they're within our lifetime. So maybe, just maybe, the right person hasn't come forward, or we'll see.
There's always hope.
Yeah. Buckle up, though, because we're going to go a little bit out of order and first tell you about how this unrelenting shit sack got caught.
Shit sack.
Mm-hmm.
Shit sack Bobby Jack.
Yeah. Oh my God, we've named it. Yeah, that's what I'm going to call it.
I'm so honored.
You guys, you just witnessed a thing of beauty here. I don't know how much some of the platforms are going to like that
the
title.
Social medias hate us already.
Whatever. Yeah, I made a TikTok about it. I'll probably put it out one of these days. I'm kind of afraid that then they're going to retaliate.
I know. We're just going to have to come up with our own social media platform.
All right. So anyways, back to it. After that, we'll begin something of a dive into those cases that are a bit murkier, and we'll just see what kind of light we can shed. So this isn't going to be a typical case series in the sense that however many episodes crimes of a similar nature or related area span, they might not all be related to Bobby Jack Fowler specifically, but they're important for us to try to keep talking about. So maybe we can get some answers one day.
Are you hinting at something?
I mean, a few things. They're like, can you just speak plainly? For God's sake, woman. Skipping ahead in our timeline, by 1992, Bobby had made his way to Newport, Oregon.
Oh, the beach.
Yeah, the beach.
I love Newport.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
I haven't really spent a lot of time in Newport. And
No?
No, and now I'm like,
I love all the beach towns. Like, I can't.
Yeah,
They're all the
I
same
do
to me,
too.
honestly. But
yeah. I mean, it's just nice to go to the beach.
Yeah.
I don't think we know exactly when he popped up in the area, but remember that. Newport, 1992, because we're going to circle back to a disappearance that occurred in May of that year,
Okay.
along with some others.
You're giving us a lot of credit to remember that date.
It's fine.
Okay.
I'll remind you.
Okay. Thank
It's kind
you.
of my thing. Back to how Bobby gets caught, though. On June 28th of 1995, Bobby was at the Anchor Bar where he met a woman, and good Lord, was it going to be a really rough night for her. That would prove to be what I'm sure was one of the most harrowing nights of her life, and the hands down winner in any conversation or contest about absolutely terrible first dates.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like, I would challenge you to tell me a worse first date story, but like you don't got this.
Oh, God.
That night in June, they'd been drinking and playing the video gambling machines at the bar. It seems like they must have been hitting it off because they were planning to move on to another casino together from there. He told her that he wanted to stop at his room at the Tides Inn to shower and change before moving on to the casino. Keep in mind, it's hardly because he thought that he needed to get dressed up to go to the casino. He was up to something else.
I'm sure.
Yeah. She went along with him to his motel room where a real Jekyll and Hyde switcheroo occurred.
Oh.
In his room, Bobby tells her, and I am supremely hating that these are words I will ever have uttered, but here we are, that he believes that women like to be raped.
What the fuck?
When she had the audacity to beg to differ on that topic, that's when the assault began.
Mm.
Because, he was trying to impress her, obviously.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He attacked her, tearing away at her clothing, growling out the bone-chilling words you'll all be hearing in your nightmares for a while now. I'm going to put you in the ocean.
Oh my God.
As he began to tie her ankle with rope.
Oh, this poor woman. That is terrifying.
Now, in case this is something that anyone needs to hear just for confirmation, that was a bad idea. It always is. But he fucked with the wrong woman.
Good.
Her survival instincts kicked in at full force immediately. She bit him.
Yes.
And then jumped out the window.
Wow.
You guys, as he's beating her, attempting to rape her, and is actively terrorizing and taunting her, she fights him off and literally nopes, yeets, escapes the ever-loving fuck out of there.
What, were her feet still tied up?
I don't think he'd gotten that far.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She jumped out a second-story window with rope still attached to her leg.
Wow.
Instead of being a lady-shaped hole in the wall, she went right out the window.
That's crazy.
This is what would lead to his eventual downfall. 'Cause duh, it's pretty obvious he done did wrong.
Yeah. And she's going to tell someone about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of the time, women don't opt for an exit that could involve broken glass without good reason.
Yeah.
Just saying. I literally cannot imagine the calls coming into dispatch that night. At the Tides Inn, we've got a 35-year-old woman that apparently jumped out of a second-story window, despite the fact that she is both bleeding and nude. Yes, and responding officers should be aware that she still has rope tied around her ankle. Correct. It sounds like she's done the heavy lifting fighting off the perpetrator, but perhaps you can assist her by providing transport to the hospital and, I don't know, maybe collecting the rope as evidence. I don't know, maybe she'll need some help removing that from her badass self, but I doubt it, since she's basically a badger in spirit inhabiting the body of a seemingly normal woman. I was like,
Man.
she did
What?
what?
That's awesome.
I know. Obviously, she jumped out of a window. She's already bleeding and somewhat injured. But after that, you never know. Like, it's only the second story, but jumping out of that window, it wasn't without risk.
Yeah.
So, but it sounds like she was okay. I actually found a YouTube video, and it's just audio of her, because she has, tried to keep her identity somewhat veiled, but she talked about that night. So I'm going to link to that in the show notes.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm like, wow, I need to hear the voice of this woman. Like, if I can't see her, I need to hear her voice. Like, can I write her a letter? Does she have a P.O. box?
Does she have self-defense classes?
Right? She told the officers reporting to the scene the whole sordid story. Then she told that same story at least once more, because Cassie, you were right. She testified against Bobby in court.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good thing, because if she hadn't been willing to testify, I dread to think what would have happened. We need something to stick to this guy like rubber cement on steroids. We've got another promo roll that we are really excited to share today.
Hear ye, the dishonorable widow Abigail will now speak.
Attention, all weirdos, losers, rednecks, white trash, aliens, outcasts, outliers, sluts, whores, gangsters, thugs, poors, and anyone else who the world and society don't care about. I have a podcast for you. Come join me at the Manic Pixie Weirdo, where we talk about all the different kinds of relationships we have in our lives, from movies to math and suicide hotlines to sex. Join us every Saturday for a new episode featuring yours truly and other smarter folk. We need you, and we want you with us. So come join us at the Manic Pixie Weirdo, where we accept, respect, and value you. Listen on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Oh yeah, be kind and stay weird.
You guys, we're back! Bobby, not to be held down by silly things like a woman's autonomy or the law, was unfazed. He tried to sue the state for violating his civil liberties.
What?
Yeah, because, wait for it, he was super pissed off about being charged for kidnapping as a result of the incident at the Tides Motel. Listen to this shit. You're being charged with sexual assault, but sure, the kidnapping charge is way out of line. This is very similar to Kirby, too.
I was just going to say that.
He maintained that his victim had accompanied him to the motel room willingly, and jumping out the window was something that she did of her own accord.
Yeah. Why? Why did she do that?
That twisted trail of logic, sir, I simply do not follow.
Also, you tried to tie her up.
Yeah.
So.
Weird how someone might do that if you physically and sexually assault them and threaten their life. Spoiler, Bobby Jack Fowler did not win the $3 million lawsuit that he had filed. Obviously.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. I literally don't know how a judge keeps a straight face during those proceedings. Bobby Jack Fowler may have thought that everyone was playing around in the courtroom, but he did not go to Monopoly jail. It didn't happen quickly enough for my liking, honestly, but on January 8th of 1998, Bobby met a laundry list of charges, including first-degree kidnapping, first-degree sexual abuse, attempted rape in the first degree, coercion, assault in the fourth degree, and menacing.
Good.
All told, Bobby is convicted and the charges result in a 16-year sentence. He did have the possibility of parole to look forward to. Well, I mean, he would have anyway, if he hadn't died of lung cancer. He would have been eligible for parole after serving 10 years. Bobby died on May 15th, 2006, while still serving his sentence.
Yay.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
I want to throw a party.
I know, right? Weird that he popped up on my radar in the first couple of days of May, knowing that there are multiple important dates pertaining or linked to this case in the month of May. In case you were wondering, his body was cremated. And now that we've taken care of that trash, I'd like to circle back to some other, infinitely more important people, other potential victims of Bobby Jack Fowler. Now, Cassie.
Yes.
I know you said that you couldn't be expected to keep track. Now,
1992.
Yeah. Now, remember, I said to bookmark Newport, Oregon in 1992 in your heads. We just discussed Bobby Jack Fowler's conviction less than a handful of years later. But that's not all. He was not only involved in that violent crime in Newport, but he was also suspected of murders in Tillamook County as well. On May 3rd of 1992, Sheila Swanson and Melissa Sanders went missing. You guys, I had planned to look into like 2 or 3 other cases ahead of this one. Remember, I said this like in the last couple of episodes. I've been talking about this. I was going to write them up and then record those to release ahead of this one.
Okay.
And that was before, for whatever reason, I just ended up landing on this one. I just couldn't get into the other cases. And it gets weirder. I was researching this case, not just Bobby Jack Fowler's crimes in general, on May 3rd, 2022.
Oh.
But specifically, these 2 victims, literally exactly 30 years to the day since they went missing.
Oh.
And I'm getting chills again this time, too.
It got really cold in here all of a sudden.
I know.
Did you feel that?
Yeah.
That was really weird. Like it dropped like 3 degrees in here at least.
Another 3. I seriously was like that. Just
You should see her face right now. It's really funny.
I could not believe, like, I had to pull out my phone and check the calendar. And then I looked at another calendar. I had to like have a backup calendar to be sure that it was the right day. Yeah. Because your iPhone could totally be wrong.
Yeah.
But I like couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, are you kidding me? Weird. And I still was like, I don't know if I want to do this case next. And then I was like, okay, universe, calm down.
I hear
decided. So remember what I said when we talked about Kirby Anthony about the 5s and 3s popping up. May 3rd, the 30th anniversary, and I had literal goosebumps that I was learning all of this on May 3rd. So I'm going to try not to go like crazy hyper focusing on any of the other like weird reoccurring dates or numbers, but I'm guessing that you're going to be noticing every single one now after this. I don't think I even have to say anything.
Okay.
It's so weird reading about cases decades later on the exact dates they occurred and then just kind of seeing these patterns.
Ooh.
I mean, I also kind of hate it because regardless, this guy was a nasty, gnarly waste of space. But then again, I did sign up for this, I suppose.
You did. Don't know why, but you did.
Yeah. Weird. I'm a weirdo.
Aren't we all?
What a creepy lady. Anyway, the girls, Sheila and Melissa, were camping at Beverly Beach State Park with family prior to their disappearance. Their remains were found by hunters 5 months later in a very small, I don't know, like village. It's an unincorporated area with a small population, so I think that's probably the best term for it. It's called Eddyville.
Huh.
I'm like, never heard of it.
Me neither.
Just under an hour away from where they had been camping. If it weren't for the circumstances, this would be a real meet cute, Eddyville. I think it's the cutest name.
It is cute.
Eddyville. They were discovered on a logging road covered by brush and other natural debris from the forest. It would later prove that this had been a pattern for Bobby. A crime that took place in 1976, shortly after he moved on to Tennessee, would be known as one of the earliest instances of this MO. His MO. But we really don't have the full picture in real time. Back in Tennessee, he had been arrested for rape. He was convicted and then sentenced to 5 years, ultimately only serving about 2. This poor woman had been beaten and raped. He strangled her, and though he had abandoned her body on the side of the road, she was lucky to survive and then be able to identify her attacker.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You know, for all the good that piddly sentence in the state of Tennessee did.
Yeah. Like he basically thought he killed her, right? Because he just left her, strangled her and left her there.
Mm-hmm. Imagine working up the nerve to show up to a courtroom and identify this man and try to bring him to justice for fully trying to kill you after a violent assault. And the justice system decides that's worth 2 measly years. I think I would burn the courthouse to the ground.
That just makes me so mad.
It's pretty gross. And then the amount of crimes that they could have prevented.
Yeah. Oh.
What sadly happened to Sheila Swanson and Melissa Sanders bore a striking resemblance to another crime. The case of Jennifer Essen and Kara Leas, age 16. They also disappeared from the Newport area on January 28th, 1995. This is right before Bobby Jack Fowler was arrested. Just about like 5 months before he was arrested.
Oh my God.
Wait, is that right? Yeah. Oh my God. Shut the fuck up. I didn't even notice that.
What was the date?
June 28th. January 28th.
Wow.
5 months to the day.
That's nuts.
Okay.
Okay.
After watching some movies at Jennifer's boyfriend's house, they were supposed to get a ride home from Jennifer's older brother. But for reasons that aren't exactly clear, they told him they'd rather walk home.
Oh.
At 1 a.m.
No.
in January in Oregon on the coast.
It's going to be cold.
Right? Does nobody have any issue with that?
Not like victim blaming or like survivor blaming, but if I was that brother, I'd be like, fuck.
Oh,
no,
he feels so incredibly guilty.
Sure.
Oh.
I cannot even imagine. Like, it's not his fault or
No.
I'm not saying that.
Yeah. No, I mean, nobody would, but you know that in the back of your mind, you're going to feel
Yeah.
responsible.
I'm sure maybe
It's
he did
terrible.
have the thought, like, maybe I should go and get them, but like they know what they're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think in a lot of these coastal towns that people just felt safe.
Yeah.
You know, they're small towns.
Mm.
Though she had said she would call once they arrived safely at home, Jennifer never did call her boyfriend after leaving his home. Both girls were found just weeks later on February 15th of 1995. Like the day after Valentine's Day?
Aw.
Come on. Their bodies were located on a logging road under some brush, having been raped and strangled. Unlike some of the victims in recent or other similar cases that had previously been discovered, their cause of death was able to be determined. Traumatic asphyxiation by strangulation. Sounds pretty familiar with the benefit of hindsight and a bit of context, right?
Uh-huh.
Following the discovery of their bodies near Moolock Beach, unfortunately, no arrests were made and no charges filed. Yeah.
Did they just not have any evidence or like find any?
I mean, there wasn't a lot to go on. And honestly, not a lot has changed.
That sucks.
Bobby was considered a person of interest in their deaths and has remained so following a tip that was generated by a 2012 story about him in the Oregonian.
Oh, wow. So there is hope.
Mm-hmm. The cold case detective said a call came in from a man claiming he was fairly confident he'd seen Bobby Jack Fowler on Hayes Creek Road in 1992. Detective Benson said, quote, he was unfamiliar with the area, visiting people he knew, and there was this odd guy there. He's adamant about it. He's so insistent. It does seem like there could be a connection, right? I mean, I try not to make assumptions, but at minimum, it seems unlikely to be a coincidence that wherever Bobby Jack Fowler goes, bodies of teenage girls and women are found.
Ew.
I don't know about you, but it feels pretty safe to say that there's likely a link since he's connected with a nearly identical crime in the area around this same time.
Yeah. I don't think you're far off.
Yeah, I felt like probably you guys would agree that that's not like, you know, it's not wild. It's not totally off base.
No.
Here's the thing. We're talking about this guy in the context of cases from the 1990s, and he'd obviously been actively violent for decades already. Case in point, the 1974 case of Colleen McMillan in British Columbia. She was hitchhiking along Highway 16 at the time of her disappearance. She was found dead a few months later. DNA evidence was collected at that time, but of course there was no technology to test it, because 70s. However, we're lucky that it was collected and maintained.
Oh, snap.
For all those years, because we get lucky enough to find something more conclusive. Mm-hmm. It's another one of those cases that illustrates the importance of a proper investigation and evidence collection on the front end. Yeah, we got to do it right from the start.
Yeah.
What felt like it might remain a cold case forever ends up being solved decades later. Because in 2012, the evidence was processed thanks to advances in forensic science and DNA technology. And in May of 2012, Interpol informed Canadian police they got a DNA hit related to the murder of Colleen McMillan. Police in the state of Oregon confirmed the CODIS DNA match for none other than Bobby Jack Fowler.
No.
I know. in connection to the case of 16-year-old Colleen McMillan. So just when you think maybe there's no hope of getting answers, Bobby Jack Fowler was linked to those samples from 1974.
That is so cool.
Yeah. I mean, and remember, Bobby Jack remained in that area until roughly 1975.
I am completely shocked.
He has no record there.
Oh, no?
He has no criminal record when he was living in BC. But it's like, oh, did he just stop committing crime?
No.
No.
He just didn't get caught.
Yep. Sorry, I totally cut you off.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just shocked that they didn't like lose the evidence, you know, like because we hear that so often. Oh, it's been misplaced or damaged. Like, oh, that is so cool.
So often. It's, and it's just too much. Like, I can't when they're like, oh, we don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this person was murdered and you don't have the evidence? Do you see that bridge over there? I am going to push you off of it.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Thank you, Cassie, always looking out for my alibi. So Colleen was murdered in 1974, and the investigators had collected and preserved a piece of her clothing that was believed might have a bodily fluid sample on it. Sure as shit, it was the type of DNA that they had guessed. Yuck. And it matched BJF, as I've taken to calling him. Like, dude, stop leaving your nasty fluids about willy-nilly.
Ew, that
Yeah.
just...
Or,
I got a visual there. And
Oh, sure. Yeah.
the willy-nilly and...
As one does.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Or don't. Because I guess in this case, it was as close to a good thing as we're going to get.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
More cool stuff?
Yes. Okay. This was the oldest hit on a DNA sample in Interpol history, at least at that time. And I wasn't able to find information about that record being broken since, but I'll definitely be keeping my eyes peeled for other cases like this.
That's really cool.
Yeah. It's becoming increasingly common. And if anyone is aware of similar cases like this, where, you know, they're solved decades later, I love those ones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always interested in those. Now, certainly, I think that there are probably, you know, other agencies that have their own records and have probably broken the one that Interpol set for themselves specifically. Like, reminds me of the Boy in the Bundle episode, actually. So, which is kind of funny because it's a case that I've been revisiting in my mind quite a bit, because we know the statistics can be quite dire in these, you know, aged cases.
Yeah.
But it does sort of give you a sense of hope to think that with some of them, it really might not be too late.
Yeah. Take care of the evidence.
Yeah.
Preserve it.
Seriously.
Treat it like I don't know. What I was trying
like
to say,
your
but-
firstborn child, you know? Or your mother's fine china, whatever analogy works for you, just fucking do it. BJF is suspected to have killed anywhere between 20 people on up to more than 40.
Whoa.
So I do have hope that there will be cases that might still see at least something resembling closure or at least a solution, you know? This case is part of the Highway of Tears murders that we talked about earlier in the BC area. And we're going to come back to them. But for now, I want to highlight how the DNA match to BJF, that stupid fuck, has put a spotlight back on some of these cases. It's critical coverage when we consider how overlooked so many of them were. Yeah, you're not going to love that part, Cassie.
Great.
Yeah. I'm not done with that episode yet, so you don't have to hear about it today. Does that cheer you up at all?
A little?
Okay.
A little bit?
So that's including the 1973 disappearances of Gail Ways and Pamela Darlington, who both disappeared while hitchhiking. Strong circumstantial evidence points to Bobby Jack Fowler. Frequently, Indigenous women that were victims of these disappearances, assaults, and murders were not prioritized or being taken seriously and investigated thoroughly. And that's not all that I'm going to say about this. We're going to take a deeper dive on that, like real soon. So don't worry, we're not doing a 30-second blurb about the Highway of Tears, because that would be like atrocious.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately, though he was imprisoned for many years, BJF would never face punishment for these particular crimes. Because, as I've already shared, he had already died of cancer while in custody. To which I say, good riddance. But I wish you could be serving a ridiculously long sentence you'd never outlive, like Kirby.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's that. Yay.
Yay.
He's dead.
I'm glad he's dead.
Yeah.
I really like to say that because you can't say that about like a lot of people.
Yeah. All right. Well, kids, we're going to go get our tarot situation going.
BRB.
BRB. Yeah. I was like, just cut this out. I'm a tater. I'm a tater tot all the time.
All right. Moving on to our tarot read for Shit Sack Bobby Jack.
I really love that. Thank God you were here. I put that in my notes, shit sack, and I didn't even.
It rhymes.
I know. It's catchy.
I liked rhyming stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Feeling good about this shuffle. Cut them, my dear.
Okay. All right. I don't know how I feel about it.
What?
No. Okay.
The lovers.
We might have to. I might have really. I feel like that's not the what.
It wasn't in reverse, was it?
No.
Are you sick?
No. I just feel like I wasn't getting the one like tactile sensation wise that I wanted. Yeah, I mean, it's not the right card.
Literally said as soon before you flipped it over that it wasn't the right card, so I'm gonna go with it's not the right card.
Yeah.
Do I need to shuffle again, do you think?
I'm going to. Yeah.
I feel like it's fine. It's not like it's a pretty normal thing.
Yeah, it didn't sit right with me.
I mean, everyone's gonna see that you immediately said this isn't the card, and I don't know why she even flipped it over.
I just was like, I'll know when I see it, I think. And I was like, I don't think this is it, but.
Tarot's not perfect, y'all. We're working on our intuition as well.
Okay. I think this feels Ace of Wands.
In reverse, yeah?
Show her off. Yeah, in reverse.
There's a disembodied hand holding a wand.
That's so funny.
That's what it's going to say, huh?
Literally, yes.
I'm pretty sure we've had this one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like this one strikes me as one that we've had recently, maybe even. Okay, so Ace of Wands. Our keywords are opportunity, inspiration, adventure, creativity, a new start. Aces signify beginnings. Is this the card that we got in one of our Patreon tarot reads? We got it in the Patreon Zoom for the Podiversary, didn't we? I think so.
Oh.
Did we draw this for us?
I think we might have. But it's in reverse.
Weird. Yeah, no, but that's just really weird. The timing is very... Yeah. Okay. Aces signify beginnings. They also represent they also represent focused energy and clear, singular intent. In the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot and some other decks, the Ace of Wands shows a disembodied hand emerging from a cloud, grasping a stick from which new shoots grow. The message, here's an opportunity, grab it. Yeah, this is totally the card.
Yeah.
Some decks picture only a wand, often one that's large and elaborate, like a ruler's scepter or a witch's ceremonial tool. Oh, this is totally it, because this extra excerpt, I remember I had made a comment about how ace is either high or low, depending on how you... Highest or lowest. In modern day games of chance, the ace often stands as the highest card. In the tarot, however, it occupies the other end of the spectrum, not the lowest, but the earliest step. Okay, so Ace of Wands in reverse, it says delays and complications have stalled an endeavor, and you feel frustrated or impatient. As a result, you may question yourself and your ability. You might have to rethink your plans and make adjustments, or perhaps sit back and wait for a better time.
Wow.
Like 40 years later.
Yeah.
In a reading about money, this card suggests consolidating your finances and focusing on what's essential. Curb spending. Don't overextend yourself now. In a reading about work, it can mean an enthusiastic start fizzled or met with obstacles. You don't have to give up, but you may need to put in some extra effort or reassess the situation. This card may advise you to wait for a more auspicious time, when the force is with you, to begin a project or other venture.
That's interesting.
It's so funny because it's the total opposite of everything that, we got.
Yeah.
And not all cards, when they're in the reverse, are just like polar opposite, but this is very much so.
I'm so glad we didn't pull it in the reverse, because I would have been just like probably bawling my eyes out.
Yeah. In a reading about love, the ace reverse suggests an enjoyable relationship may be short-lived. I literally just kind of did a double take on that. Perhaps you approached an affair wearing rose-colored glasses and now see it's not what you really want. This card may also mean the initial passion in a romance is dwindling.
That's kind of spooky.
It's like literally every relationship that Bobby Jack ever had, I think.
Yeah. I was specifically thinking about the woman
in Newport.
She trusted him enough to go to his hotel room or motel.
Motel.
Ooh.
That's...
I felt like that was the card for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I just was like, I kind of was trying to get a read on the deck when I first went to pull the card. And then as soon as I saw the lovers, I was like, nope.
No. I think that when that happens, because that happened in the Iron Goat Trail one where like the card was just so positive. You're just like, this isn't the card. This is not the right card.
Yeah.
But it makes it like so obvious to where you know that it's not right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, but that's funny because I remember that, we were still going to have you do the tarot and everything for that episode. But then we were talking about it and I said, I found in a Facebook group that kind of talks about different aspects of tarot. And they said specifically, I don't do readings when I'm not feeling well, whether it's like, I just kind of had a bad day or you're actually physically sick.
Yeah.
And you were definitely physically sick.
And then it like proved it because you pulled a card with snow on it and was like, okay, that's like proof enough right there.
Yeah. The proof is in the pudding.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Ooh, pudding.
I know. Let's go eat another donut.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, let's be done with this for now. I mean, I know we're going to circle back to the sad highway.
Yes. Yeah. The Highway of Tears is, we're not finished with that. Not by a long shot. So, but yeah, I have just been coming up with all kinds of cases and yeah, it's going to get interesting, but that's kind of something to look forward to, sort of.
Have a creepy ass day.
See you next Tuesday.
Why were we so hesitant on that?
I don't know. Like we've never done it before.
Never.
Yeah, it's our first time.
We're new here. Bad Bobby Jack Fucksack.
So for all of you that are listening, if you have any true crime or paranormal stories that you want us to share, maybe with the whole Pacific Northwest.
Yes, we would love to read them on the pod.
Yes, we will read them out loud.
Not just in our heads.
Yes. They don't have to be from the Pacific Northwest if you would like to share. Email us at pnwhauntsandhomicides@gmail.com. It's all spelled out, no special characters. Super duper easy peasy.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Same thing as the email at pnwhauntsandhomicides, all spelled out, no special characters. Please also rate and review us on whatever platform you're listening to, and check out our stories on social media because our meme game is hot.
Agreed.
And if you agree, like Caitlin, you can also find us on Patreon and support the show.
Bitchin'. Is that rain that's making that noise?
It might
Do you
be.
hear that?
Yeah. It's rain and
Shut up.
it's
God.
raining, man.
Oh my God. If only, am I right?
I know.
Oh my God.
Sausage party.
Great film. Great film. You like that? All right. Well, there we go. We got our blooper reel for the week.
Yeah, we might.